All right, I'm going to fire up a little poll question while we watch the participant numbers fly up. We've had lots of interest in talking about AI and automation, and we're pretty excited to talk about it. So we will get rolling in just under a minute. For the folks just joining, I've launched a poll here. We'd like to get a little bit of feedback, understand the folks that we're talking to the audience, how you are currently using AI in your organizations or businesses. That'll aid us as we are walking through this presentation. Jermaine, so far, nobody is scared of the robots.
So far. Well, we'll see how that goes at the end.
All right, I'm seeing some familiar faces on our participants list. We are going to get rolling. We will honor those that are on time. Thank you for joining us on time. I'm going to just share our screen for a little presentation that we have for today. All right, awesome. Welcome to The Robots Are Coming. How to unleash the AI that you are already paying for in your organization. So I'm super excited about this topic. For those that have not been on our webinars before, our goal is to do about half an hour of content and then take as many questions as we can kind of ram into however long folks are willing to stay around for. So expect from your webinar today, kind of half an hour, 35 minutes of content that we'll go through. We got some great stuff on AI. We did an in-person event last week and talked about a bunch of this stuff, got some feedback, have wrapped that feedback into the presentation today. Yeah, we're excited to get going. If you do have any questions or you want to kind of push us in a certain direction, feel free to post stuff in the Q&A panel. We're happy to, we'll either take your questions at the end or do it on the fly. I am excited to be joined, as always, by my colleague, Jermaine Clark. Welcome, Jermaine.
Thank you, Brendan. Always happy to be here.
Jermaine is our Vice President of Operations at Techify and runs our service delivery. My name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO at Techify. Jermaine and I have done a whole bunch of webinars together. We do them usually the third Wednesday of every month. Our goal is just to help people keep up to date with all of the stuff that's going on in the world of technology, but speak at a business level, not a super technical level, and give everybody actionable stuff to walk away from our webinars with. So before we get to our super topic today, let's talk about webinars. Our next webinar is going to be on data. I'm really excited about this one. One of the things that we hear when we're out talking to people nonstop is, hey, we've got data everywhere, like all these applications and data is all over the place and stuff like that. But even though we have data everywhere, we can't really use it for anything, or we're feeling like we can't harness it. So our next webinar, and we've enlisted our resident Power BI expert to help us develop some content and recommendations around how to use Power BI to create wonderful dashboards, data sets, data visualizations, that sort of stuff to allow you and your team to make much better decisions. So we are super excited about that. Look, we're getting a little bit of appreciation already on the Q&A panel. Thank you, Mariella. That's very nice of you. All right, our poll results, we have slightly over, about 60% of the folks that are on the webinar today are not using AI, Jermaine. Only one person is scared of AI, and then or scared of the robots. The rest are excited about possibilities. And then we've got probably the most common is people are using it in sales and marketing or accounting. So that's good stuff. We don't have we have only one person it looks like that's using Copilot so far. So that is good background for us. All right, so let's talk about AI and automation. So our world is going through, it's a revolution in terms of technology, right? Most of us will remember the time when the internet came, how that revolutionized how we work, how we gather data, how we do research. And in the past few months, ChatGPT has been showing us all what AI can do. You see a video up on the screen here that I asked ChatGPT for some advice on the future of work and what's going to happen. And I fundamentally believe, and Jermaine and I have been talking about this, we've been talking about it with a lot of our members of our team. We've done a boatload of research and preparation for these two AI events that we're doing this month. And it's going to revolutionize how people work. It's going to completely change how people work. And I'd be interested in feedback after you hear what we have to say and what we have to show you today. If you agree or if you disagree, that it'll be interesting to get your feedback. So let's get going. The other thing too that sort of changed a little bit how we worked and how we prepped is most of the slides that you see in this presentation today were actually generated by AI. So the images in the slides are AI generated. But before we go through and start talking about how to implement AI, Jermaine, why don't you take us on a little bit of a history of AI? How did we get to this point where we're like on the verge of revolutionizing how we work?
Well, I know that we're heading into summer soon. We're kind of midway through fall, spring here. But just imagine it was a snowy week in kind of early 2011. And at an IBM research center, Jeopardy Studio sees two of the world's best players battle a computer named Watson to see who's going to win Jeopardy. And I mean, you know what? Why don't we do this? Let's go ahead and take people back in time and show them what that looked like and sounded like at that time.
All right, here we go with the Wayback Machine.
Time travel.
Our three players have made their wagers. The category is 19th century novelists, and here is the clue. William Wilkinson's An Account of the Principalities of Wallachia and Moldavia inspired this author's most famous novel. 30 seconds, players, good luck. We come to you, Brad, first. You were in third place with 5,600. You came up with what? Who is Bram Stoker? You are correct, the author of Dracula. Over to Ken Jennings now, 18,200 going in. Bram Stoker is what we're looking for, and we find who is Stoker. I, for one, welcome our new computer overlord. Now we come to Watson. We're looking for Bram Stoker, and we find who is Bram Stoker, and the wager? Hello, 17,973, 41,413, and a two-day total of 77,147.
Wow. So, for those of you who remember, Ken Jennings was on probably the longest running winner on Jeopardy during that period of time. And his competitor there as well, one of the top Jeopardy players, and they got destroyed by an AI-driven machine that was kind of running through. So if you kind of think about that, that was Jeopardy in 2011. You fast forward 13 years and poof, where are we, right? So it's kind of going crazy right now. So a little bit more on the history. If you kind of look at from early origins, kind of around 1950s, we had the first AI conference that coined the term AI and pushed that out as a learning objective going forward and a field of study. You fast forward, we had the first chatbot in 1966, the first chatbot that was speaking to and demonstrating word agreement language online. Then around the 80s, we had a little bit of a dip, a winter where nobody was interested in investing in this AI nonsense. And then to turn that around, IBM again came around and said, hey, you know what, chess players, let's get a machine that can beat the world chess player, the winner of the world chess player. And Deep Blue came out in 1997. Then 2009, we saw the release of Waze. I don't know about you guys, but everywhere I go, regardless of what I'm doing, if I know the direction or not, I'm using ways to figure out the best route, whether there's traffic, get reports and updates on how easy the highway is going to be for whatever trip I'm on. We talked a little bit about 2011, where Watson gets, the upper hand and all the Jeopardy winners and won $1 million. During COVID, it's widespread knowledge now that during the COVID pandemic in the early days, they used AI to decide where they would put the distribution centers, how they would backtrace and figure out points of origins of the disease, in order to help humankind move forward with that. You fast forward to 2022, ChatGPT version 4 comes out, available to the public, and man, that starts freaking everybody out, showing more interest. 2023, Microsoft, of course, you have to R&D and come back with something better. So they are using the same backend now in what they call Copilot to help even further develop and support the utilization within the Microsoft space. So now you've got AI built into everything. And here's a brief history going from the early 50s all the way through to today. And keeping that in mind, like this has been going on for a little while. We didn't just wake up one day and poof, here we were.
So we're already making progress here. Duncan's posted a comment that he's terminated his fear of robots.
Terminated. I get you, Duncan.
And Jasmine appreciates that our slides are generated by AI. Jasmine, you're going to see a little bit more on that front coming up. So here's the problem or the challenge that we're trying to deal with here, right? The way that people work, the technology we're using fundamentally changed during COVID, post-COVID, remote work, that sort of stuff. And now an amazing 57% of our time is spent on communications, being in Teams meetings, emails, Teams chat. 57% of our time is spent just communicating, as opposed to 43% of it actually creating, doing the work. Stimulating that part of your brain that creates it. And this is based on a report called the Work Trend Index annual report, came out just this year in March 2023. They surveyed 31,000 people. So it's a big worldwide survey talking about how people are working. And the weight of people's workday is 68% of people are saying that they don't have enough uninterrupted focus time during the workday to work, right? Heaviest email users spend basically a day a week on email, 8.8 hours. And the heaviest meeting users spend another day a week, 7.5 hours a week in meetings. So we've created this kind of working environment where we're kind of torturing ourselves with email and meetings and Teams chats and et cetera. And you're seeing that the biggest frustration that people are having with productivity is those inefficient meetings. Right? And there's an urgent need to make those meetings more effective and to have fewer meetings and to have clearer goals, right? So that we can have people feeling more inspired and also enable people to get the information they need to do their work. Now, a lot of people, when you start talking about AI, think, oh, well, we're going to implement AI and we're going to have the robots come in and going to do everybody's jobs for them. So we're going to be able to reduce headcount. In fact, in this same survey, when they took the subset of leaders of organizations, increasing employee productivity was twice as important as reducing headcount. And actually, reducing headcount was like last on the list. Everybody's focused on, okay, how do we help our employees with the necessary repetitive tasks that they're doing? How do we increase well-being? How do we eliminate the time that they're spending on low-value stuff? And allow them to work, allow our team members to work on the stuff that really matters. And that's the opportunity with AI. And that's where you can really change how people work, and you can change the nature of your organization. So now you might be standing there and saying, okay, we'd like to use AI and use this automation and help support our team more. But there's two things standing in your way. Two things. Jermaine and I have done a whole bunch of research on AI, read a bunch of books and various things on it. And we find two things, only two things, but they're kind of big. Jermaine, what are they?
Well, the first thing is the people. First thing is going to stand in your way of moving to AI is that you've got to think about the people within your organization. Is that space between the chair and the desk? that effectively will either move this forward or give you that stopgap. And that's where we've seen it. I mean, think about how hard it was to get people to go from sending everything in attachments with version 1 through 10 to going to sending only links in their emails, right? Like that was a huge change. Think about your security training within your organization. Think about every time you do a new process within your organization, you need to train people on. Huge gap. The second thing, well, we'll talk a little bit about this, and we talk about it all the time. I mean, this is stitched together, old technology sitting in somebody's basement. You got your little computer, etc., for maintenance, tons of wires and cables everywhere. All the old equipment, servers, things that you've been using that are no longer compatible with the new technology will stand in the way of you getting forward with that. So two huge things: getting the people on board with working and doing with it, and then getting rid of and upscaling and changing your environment so that it can work with the new software and the new technology.
Yeah, well, if anybody has a server room that looks like this picture, they should really call us pretty quick.
I don't know. I like the lights. So the other thing that we want to think about as we kind of go through, and you've got the people portion of it, you've got the old technology, but really where this is going to change and uplift your organization is when you think about what are the new skills that people are going to need and new ways of working, right? We always often hear the phrase, this has worked like this for hundreds of years. Why would we change it? Do it the same way. But really, you can't work with an AI the same way you'd work with your Windows or your Mac computer today, because they're just not the same technology and it just does not operate in the same way. So you're going to have to go through a whole form and fashion of updating the skills that your team needs within your organization, adding that analytical judgment, the flexibility, some emotional intelligence in there, and then really figuring out what the best areas are. Now, based on that study, when we kind of look at that, if we kind of focus in on things like bias detection and handling, right? If you go ahead and you've got a bias to, you like yellow flowers, and then you ask the thing to prepare a presentation as an example, everything in the presentation is going to be yellow. And that's a bias that you're inherently putting into the machine, and the machine spitting out something that's already going to be compromised based on what you're looking at. So it's a garbage in, garbage out kind of scenario. And you have to learn how to delegate to an AI, how to change that bias, how to be creative. So you spend a lot of time being non-creative today in teams and meetings. You've got to now upscale on that creativity and bringing it back into the workspace.
Yeah, and when Google came out, we all many years ago needed to learn how to Google, right? How to search, how to find the information on the internet. Like when it first came out, it was a disaster finding anything, right? And then we acquired those skills. I was at my son's grade 8 graduation this morning, and I was thinking about this, and all these kids are very quickly learning the skills and how to interact with ChatGPT, how to get the information they want. And all of us are going to need to learn this. And you'll see as we go along some different parts of it. We put together a list of 7 things that we think, based on the research and our experience in our own company with clients, there's 7 things that your organization really needs to do, we feel, to become AI ready. So number 1, probably an obvious one, set a goal. So the goal has to be like that clear guiding principle. So in our company, it was to change the way people work, or it is to change the way people work. So what we're looking at with our team is we want to give our team the ability to spend more time on the 20% of their jobs that really, really matter, right? That have a high impact, versus the 80%. And this is based on a study. It says 80% of people's job is like just drudgery, right? Meetings, reports, TPS reports, whatever it is in your organization, but they're just keeping up with things. We want people to do the stuff that they're going to have the most impact. So everything we do from an AI perspective is within that to achieve that goal.
The second thing is having the right mindset. And this is important because it speaks to the right mindset as the owner, CEO, president, and the mindset of the employees, right? Super important that you want to be able to lead that understanding that it's not replacing anyone's job. It's actually there to lift the burden. It's here to help And you need to make sure that it's framed that the implementation of that AI is really to support the human infrastructure that you have already within your organization.
Yeah. Next thing, obviously, is we want to have a plan. So the plan should target which areas of your business or organization to implement AI, what departments or maybe what workflows or what processes. There's going to be stuff that is going to be low-hanging fruit that you can say, hey, we can automate that process, or we can support that person better, or we can get them this, and we'll go through a few options as we go along here. You put together that plan and you have a targeted, so you've got a goal and you've got your targeted departments, workflows, processes, and then you can get moving.
And then number four, focusing on your people. Again, we talk a little bit about that mindset as well, focusing on your people, remembering that it's about the people, not the tech. The tech is there to support the people, much like our computers were, our ergonomic chairs, work-life balance, fancy Friday, whatever you have in space at work. But all of that's to support the people, and getting the human capital staff within the organization upskilled on the training to bring them to that next level, improving everyone will overall result in improving your business, growing the business, and having the right application for your AI as you utilize it across the board.
All right, number 5, modernizing and using the cloud. The folks that are going to be most AI ready, and we've gotten to the point that we can kind of ask 10 to 15 questions of an organization. We know how close they are or how far away they are from being AI ready. And a big part of it is, have you gone on the cloud-based modernization journey? And so I'll tell you a little story. I was meeting with an organization a couple of weeks ago, and they'd reached out to us. They knew we were doing some AI stuff, and they're like, hey, we want to talk about AI. We want to talk about AI in our business. And so there were 3 people from the organization on this call. And so we started talking a little bit about what their goals are. And then I started asking some questions, and they said, oh, what do you use for accounting software? And they're like, oh, it's Sage. It's on this on-premise server. Oh, okay. What do you use where do you store your files? Oh, we got a file server, and people VPN in when they're working remotely and stuff like that. I said, oh, what's your CRM? Oh, we use Sugar CRM. It's hosted on another server here. And then there's this like ops director on the call, and like I could see him. He's getting starting to get frustrated, and then it was video call, and he's like, hey, why do you keep asking these questions? We're here to talk about AI. We're not here to talk about all that other stuff, like our IT infrastructure and stuff like that. I said, thank you for asking me that question. There's a really good reason that we're talking about all that stuff, because all the boring stuff that we just went through, your infrastructure, where your files are located, what different applications you're using, all that stuff is going to stand in the way of you properly implementing AI.
Yep. That's right.
You're going to get to a point, it's just going to be full stop. We can't do it anymore because their stuff is too old, or it's in the wrong place, or it's really hard. We gotta program the heck out of things in order to access our data. So make sure you're modernized and moving more and more towards the cloud, because then you can just turn the stuff on. Just click a button and turn it on.
A little bit more than clicking a button. But number 6, we've got to make sure that we build the trust and use the AI ethically. One of the key aspects of how you're going to deploy and utilize this within your organization is that you've got to build the trust and understanding around the AI. Define why it's there in your organization. What should it be doing and what should it not be doing? And how it's going to be accessed and distributed across your organization within your business and your space. Because again, thinking about what people can do with the software versus what they should be doing are 2 very important factors that you need to have in consideration, because especially if you're in organizations that deal with things like copyright, that have specific parameters around where and how information is generated. So as an example, don't use the AI to give you legal advice, because you need to be a lawyer to really interpret and or utilize anything that comes out of it, right? So don't ask them what your legal advice should be, especially if you don't designate a zone, a place, type of organization, et cetera, because there are specificities around that you as an individual would not know. So you have to be ethical in how you're using it, what you're using it for, and be clearly defined on how it will build within your organization, because it is supposed to be your co-pilot. It is not a replacement for a person. It is not an autopilot where you can just put stuff in and let it go. Okay, it's there to help and work together on. So one of the examples, Brendan, you shared that with me earlier.
Yeah, like think of using Waze, right? Waze is a co-pilot for you. It's not driving the car for you. It's not maneuvering where you go, but it's giving you the information and the suggestions on where to go. And from a trust perspective, I use my dad as an example. My dad it felt like years to start using Waze. And it was many times when he was supposed to be babysitting the grandkids and he showed up late, or he was coming to a dinner and he showed up late, or he's late for a tea time. He's like, oh, traffic was bad. And like, Dad, why don't you use Waze? I don't trust those computers. And I know my way around Toronto. And then he started using Waze and all of a sudden he shows up on time. Go figure, but you got to build that trust in everything that you have to do. And the last, but definitely not least, area is really looking at things in terms of reinventing processes. Don't just apply AI to an existing process and say, we're going to do things exactly the same way that we do them right now, but we're just going to add some technology. In a lot of cases, you're going to need to reinvent the way that you're doing stuff and reinvent processes. So we want to talk about, is this sort of last part, go through Microsoft Copilot and really the opportunity with this. This is going to show you a bit of a different way, not a bit of a different way, a completely different way to work. So Microsoft Copilot, to give you the example, to give you the background, was recently launched, and it's available to a subset of people out there using the licenses that they're already paying for. And what it is it combines large language models, so i.e. ChatGPT is in the background, takes your data in the Microsoft Graph and Microsoft 365 and kind of pulls all that stuff together to do some pretty remarkable things. So like maybe you don't want to have to generate a Word document all by yourself.
Well, I mean, basically anything. If you're going to start off, let's say you want to write an SOP, or in this case, do a proposal. You've just had a meeting over the last couple of days. You've had recordings from the meetings. You've got notes that you've taken in your OneNote within your Microsoft suite. You can actually pop into your Copilot, give it the reference details of what you wanted to access and utilize, pick those up, drop those into the Copilot line and send it off. And then Copilot will go ahead and it will generate for you the first draft of your proposal. Right, which is super important, because if you go in and you do that, then you've just taken away, 20-30 minutes of somebody going in and drafting points 1 through 500, adding all the different subsets, and it will utilize the information from the previous meeting by just selecting that file and dropping it in there. So then the AI will go in, read the meeting notes, read the recording notes, going and look at your action items, etc., and then build out the first version of that. And you can do all that legwork up front.
Now, imagine if you could do a Teams meeting and you just turn that on so that Copilot will actually summarize a meeting for you. And then we'll do the meeting notes for you. And then your Microsoft Word, Copilot and Word will develop the proposal for you in the first draft of the proposal. Like we're potentially moving towards a world where we don't draft first draft of anything ourselves anymore. We're going to be able to use AI to do the first draft of Word documents, right? And then, wait a second. So we had this Word document proposal, but we're going to be going into this meeting and we need a PowerPoint presentation. So I guess probably what we're going to have to do is do up our own PowerPoint presentation, right?
Well, yeah. What a little bit of a launch on that one there.
Oh, look, there's our proposal that was done by AI. Let's turn it into a presentation. Oh my goodness.
30 seconds ago.
We now have a presentation for our meeting. We're ready to go.
Now again, it is the first draft though, right? We're not letting the machines take over and do whatever it wants. What we're going to do is have Copilot reference that presentation and the draft proposal that you had. And then it's going to generate the first draft of that slideshow for you. So no longer cutting and pasting pictures and rearranging things and creating 27 slides. You just have it created for you based on a proposal. And then you go back and you're like, okay, well, I like this, I don't like that. And then you augment.
So, but you know, when somebody in your organization creates a proposal and you don't really like it, like you have to sort of be a bit careful and I'm not sure this quite hits the mark. Well, with the robots, you don't have to be careful. You just say, no, I want regenerate, do it again. I don't like this. This is crap. You can say whatever you want. They're robots. They don't care, right?
This is true. No sentiment there.
So there's a lot of people that work in Excel, right? And have all sorts of data and spend a lot of time manipulating data in Excel. And so here's a use case just to get your kind of thinking going here that, hey, we got this big spreadsheet, got maybe hundreds of lines of data. Hey, Copilot, can you interpret the data and the key trends that we're seeing from this spreadsheet? So instead of me spending the time trying to figure out the data, and you can even get Copilot to graph things for you and trend lines, graphs, charts, that sort of thing. And then we can spend our time thinking and figuring out what the actions are that we're going to take based on this data, as opposed to spending the time putting the data together. Super cool, right?
Very impactful for the business.
Jermaine, do you think anybody struggles with email overload?
Well, you know what? I think everybody does. I mean, we've asked this tons of times in polling as well. People are like, yeah, we hate email. Email takes forever. You want to draft something really nice. So let's throw Copilot into your email. I would like to create a great example of, hey, I want to have a nice thank you email whipped up for my staff. They've done a great job. Oh, thank you, Brendan, for sending me that email today. I appreciate it very much. Hey, Jermaine, you've done a wonderful job this last quarter. I really appreciate blah, 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 blah. Here are all the key metrics and so forth. Very nice, very nice. But you can just throw that into Copilot and have Copilot draft the email for you. If you don't like what you see, again, you just hit the regenerate, or you want to adjust the email. Say, hey, I want this to be warmer and friendly as opposed to cold and authoritarian. And then it'll give you a little bit of extra in there, and it might add some sunshine and flowers to the words and make things seem a lot better. So now, instead of drafting emails and spending hours going through the thing on a daily basis, what was it, 8 hours, one full day out of your week, just drafting and sending email, you can go ahead, read the email, hit the generate, tell it what you want it to do, get a nice proposal, a nice email set up, send off to everyone, right? And our team, there are people on our team, if they've sent you an email, Brendan can tell you, there's a
Well, I'm not going to say who on our team is doing it, but we have at least one person on our team that is generating a lot of emails through Copilot to send out, and you would never know. You would think that they're all personal and that sort of thing. Okay, so I want to get to Teams and then just show a couple other examples. So where you can bring it all together into Teams, and you can use the Copilot add-in in Teams and use that natural language processing to basically say, here's what I want to do. I want you to do the following, and it's amazing the capability. You can just, hey, why don't you summarize what is happening with this client, or summarize a meeting, or summarize the back and forth, or like give me the Coles notes, right? And Teams is the front end of the Microsoft platform, the 365 platform, right? It has access to everything, and it can be your input to really leverage that AI.
Yeah, and that would be awesome, because then you come out of you do a meeting through Teams. You have the recording. Copilot then gives you the summary of the meeting. It gives you the action items out of the meeting, and then it's shared with everyone in that meeting. And then you can access and go ahead and edit and everything for those documents. And it's all within your SharePoint and your Microsoft 365 tenant space.
Imagine this: you miss a meeting, and you can read the summary and the action items from the meeting, and you don't feel like you need to re-meet with somebody else, right? Or you don't need a briefing. You got the meetings right there. You know everything that's happened. And that's just another example of the power of this Copilot engine. It's crazy. So there are lots of other examples. So if you want us to dive into any of these, we're getting close to Q&A time. We're just going to wrap up with a couple more things. But there's lots of other examples of where AI is in use. Accounting and bookkeeping, there's loads of stuff here. And we've done a bunch of stuff in our business. Healthcare, service delivery, cybersecurity, like the cyber criminals have been using AI for years. Now there's all sorts of folks that are using AI to battle the AI. So the robots are battling the robots. And that's something we can go on to for quite a while. Sales and marketing, content generation. Holy cow, like people aren't writing ebooks themselves anymore, right? Blogs, that sort of stuff. Reporting and analysis, we touched on that. Customer service, we've seen like chatbots, and it's like there's so many different examples. So the goal of this is just to kind of give you a sense of the potential. With our company, we're now doing new computer setups, new employee setup, termination, that sort of stuff using pretty advanced AI. We talked about cybersecurity. We're using a combination of data and AI to compare our clients to best practices and sort of leverage the data we have of 50 plus different organizations that we manage and support, and then give really good recommendations for how to change how things are set up, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we're doing. I mentioned earlier that we've got a relatively short list of questions that we can ask and give us a sense of where people are in their organization to start to implement AI, right? How ready are you? So what we figured we'd offer as part of this, because people, obviously you've joined this webinar and you're interested in AI, and a lot of folks aren't. I think over 60% of the people on the webinar weren't already using AI in their organization. We can give you a sense of how to go from A to B, or A to AI, maybe. Yeah, okay. Or how to tell really bad jokes, whatever you want. So take your phone. There's a QR code here, and it'll just go to a quick form. Fill out that form, and somebody from our team will contact you, schedule a time that we can kind of go through this assessment. We'll send you a slightly longer form to fill out to give us some information about your organization if you're not currently working with us. If you are currently working with us, we can give you a rundown of the path and the next steps and some opportunities, and then have a discussion and give you some advice about how to implement AI, talk about priorities, that sort of thing. As always, you feel free to reach out to Jermaine and I via email. If you don't want to do the forums thing, you can reach out to us via email. I think most of the folks on this webinar probably know us and know how to get a hold of us. We're happy to hop on an email back and forth, hop on a call, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we'll have our co-pilot do a bunch of the emails. It's fine.
All right, let's go to Q&A time. We didn't really tell everybody, but we are in fact real humans. You're not robots, and no robots.
That's what robots would say if they wanted to convince you that they were real humans. So I don't know.
All right, holy cow. We have a lot of questions. So Jermaine, where do you want to start? Should we start at the top?
As always.
All right, let's start at the top. So a couple questions from Duncan. We need to learn how to get over our biases towards other people's biases, right?
I mean,
I like this question.
Yes.
So I think there's, if I'm understanding it correctly, we need to understand biases. So we need to understand the inherent bias that somebody that's created AI, there's inherent biases in everything we do. And then we have a bias to how we interpret information coming from people's biases. So analyzing the biases of the biases kind of makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Another question. If you eliminate 80% of the drudgery and AI does it, that means that 20% of the fun and impactful stuff can be done by 1/5 of the people. That will surely reduce the need for staff. No?
So it reduced the need for staff to do that 80% of drudgery for sure. If you're, I hope everyone on here, their businesses are doing really well and they're growing. What that does is it allows you to grow without increasing your headcount, right? that 80% that we're talking about there is not going to overnight, all of a sudden the next day, everybody, that one person knows how to use it really well. And there you go. You've eliminated 4 people's jobs. It'll be a transition. You'll end up with people who are specialized in specific things that they can do really well with AI. And then what you're going to end up with is people with a lot more work-life balance, and within the same week, more time to do more things, which equals you can scale up your organization, expand with people who already know your organization. You don't have to go out and spend hours on hiring and training. So yes, and no, you don't need to get rid of people based on that, but you can actually go ahead and upscale your entire operation without increasing your headcount.
Yeah, the thing I would add to that too, if I was anybody that's leading an organization out there right now, I'd think about the competitive situation. Whether you run a nonprofit, whether you run a for-profit business, the competitive situation. So you're competing against other organizations, you're competing against other businesses. I would not, as a business leader, want to wake up one day and realize that my competition have spent the last year, 2 years, 3 years implementing AI and figuring out how to do things way better. For a couple of reasons. One is obvious margins, customer service, that sort of stuff. But the other big thing is the support of our teams and our staff. And so where would you rather work? A place that provides dramatic support for their staff and makes it much more fun, and they're able to do more challenging work and more interesting work because they're leveraging AI, or a place that's not, right? And so we got to be really careful that that's the risk, that if we don't do anything, if we don't move forward with technology, the risk of inaction, it's a pretty big risk. And then if you do that, it's up to you, right? If you want to go down a road where you operate your business with 1/5 of the number of people that you have right now, then that's your deal. It's your organization, right? Or if you'd like to be 5 times as big and with the same number of people you have right now, that'd be pretty cool too. Imagine what it would do to margins. Holy cow, for those of us that worry about stuff like that. All right, next up. Oh, this is a good question. Isn't this just going to enable people to generate more emails?
I was wondering if that was a chat bot.
It could be. Whether it's a chat bot or it's showing up as an anonymous attendee, but let's answer it anyway. So Jermaine, isn't this going to just like flood our email boxes more?
So the answer is no. I mean, you're just you writing or generating an email, you were still going to generate that email anyway. What you're going to do though is you're going to generate the email with all of the content that you're hoping to get out of it in a shorter period of time. So instead of sending more emails, well, what do you mean by this? Or should I also, could you include that? You can have a more complete set per email being sent out, which overall will increase your efficiency. Right. So the answer is there's a good opportunity here to lower the number of emails that you send, because they'll be more succinct. They'll have all the right information. And well, people will, you add a little bit of sunshine to it and they'll be so happy they got the email from you though. They won't notice they had another one.
Yeah, and if you imagine if you've got natural language processing, processing the emails coming in, and it's not you as a human processing the emails in, but you're getting kind of a summary of what's coming in. Andrew said it was not a chat bot, it was him. Thank you, Andrew. The bots in Zoom haven't quite realized something. So appreciate you clarifying that for us. That is awesome. Okay, a couple questions here about Office 365 Copilot, how to get it. So Jermaine, do you want to just walk through, there's folks that are like, oh, I saw this really cool stuff and then I went to Excel and I tried to use it.
It wasn't there. Yeah, so, again, because we're at the front end of all of this adoption and change, how Microsoft is rolling it out right now, it was launched in March of this year, 2023. And what's going to happen over the next few months is they do special releases. So they've released it so far to the enterprise space for the people with an E5 or E3 license currently. And then over the next 6 months, they're going to release it to the business or small business section, which will include your business premiums, your business standards, etc. So realistically, you've just got to wait for it to get to your rollout section. If you're on E5 today, you should have access to it. Fill out the readiness assessment. It may be just a situation where the right buttons and configurations are not set up. So you've got to put that in place so that your Copilot populates. And the same goes for anyone else within their organization, whether the licensing is the factor. But it's only currently on E5, E3. And then that'll release over the next few months.
And that's a really good point, because a lot of people think, well, we're in Microsoft 365, isn't like we're in the cloud. Like the whole reason to go to the cloud is to make stuff easy, and it's like set up, right? The reality in your 365 environment, there are literally hundreds of things in terms of configuration that need to be turned on, turned off, tweaked, set up, that sort of thing. And this is why it's really important to have a proactive look and a proactive approach to your IT, and have somebody identifying and evaluating and auditing against best practices standards. So for us, for example, for our clients, we're looking at all these settings versus best practices that we've developed. We've got over 700 best practices that we've developed, and we're evaluating where people are, and having those conversations. Hey, if you want to implement AI, we got to be on. If you want to do it right now, we've got to be on E3, E5 licenses. I think a lot of people on this call are probably in the business basic, business premium world of Microsoft 365 environments. So it's coming. And in the meantime, you can do this stuff to get ready for it, right? Maybe you have an on-premise accounting system. Maybe you're using QuickBooks Desktop as opposed to QuickBooks Cloud. Maybe you've got a file server, you haven't moved to SharePoint yet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do to prepare. Maybe you're not in Azure AD. Maybe you're not using Intune. Like, just to give you some examples of things, it's not like I want to use AI, as we said earlier, and we're just going to turn the button on. There are certain, with our organization, we could just turn it on because we've done all the other stuff. Obviously, like, we're a technology company. We've got people kind of geeking out all day long on trying new things and new technologies and stuff like that. That's what people would expect from us. But there's a bunch of things that you need to do. So hopefully that has answered Carmen, Randy, and Steven's questions.
And possibly Jasmine's question as well, on the reporting front.
Oh yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about the report? Let's talk about the report side of things. So could I generate my monthly reports from my meetings and tasks completed, for example?
Yeah, it's a good question. The answer is, short answer, yes. A little bit longer answer from that one would be, as long as you're doing your meetings within Teams, you've got your Outlook set up so that your meetings are in your calendar and they get recorded, etc., etc. The answer is yes. Again, it's more of a best practice. Having set up your Microsoft 365 space, your Outlook, your Teams is integrated, etc., and then you have your meeting, and then Copilot's kind of running in the back end with Viva Sales or Viva Insights, and you're getting that information out of it. So as long as you do that and you operate within the space, you should be able to generate, well, how many meetings did I have? What are my metrics on this, etc.
Let me add to that a little bit. The core, the important thing, sorry, I'm just reading your question that's popped up. Wait, okay, we're gonna end with that. We're gonna end with the guitar question. Okay, the important thing is, in terms of being AI ready, if you want to do this sort of stuff, is to be looking and understanding where's your data and where's your information. So, like, for example, we use Zoom for webinars because we think it's an easier platform for webinars, but we use Teams for our meetings. If you're using Zoom for all of your meetings, your data is in Zoom, and the transcription, the AI, the functionality is not there like it is with Teams. So you're making that decision to limit the amount of data, and whether it's monthly reporting or whatever else you still want to do, you're going to limit your ability to do it. So you got to think through the workflow, the applications you use, the different data, and the more you can get stuff in the same place, we're big fans, obviously, Microsoft 365 environment. We really like where they're going, and the stock market clearly likes where they're going too. And what's happening with the integration in the 365 suite and stuff like that. So it's a great place for it. On the cost side of things, Jasmine's IT person tells her that Copilot is expensive. I don't think Microsoft, based on the feedback that we've heard from different conferences, being on the Microsoft, Jermaine sits on the Microsoft Partner Council and stuff like that, they haven't quite figured out how they're going to charge for this yet. It's still kind of in development. They don't know, is it just going to be a user pricing? Is it going to be usage based? How are they, it's probably going to be usage based, because every bit of AI you use, there's a back end that's charging. But if you're only using it for high impact stuff, like right now we're using Copilot for emails and marketing, and it doesn't cost anything. It does because
well, the other part of that is Microsoft's historically done it the same way. What they do is they fold it into the enterprise license, which, it's the top license. I mean, I think we pay $80 right now Canadian for the E5 license, which includes everything that Microsoft has on release, right? So if you're in the business premium space, you're paying, $30. There's a good chance you're going to pay another $10 or something along the lines for that additional add-on, right? If it makes sense to your business, right? So the challenge here is, again, if you're concerned about security, you're concerned about staying ahead of the game, you want to differentiate in your space, then you're in an E5, or you're, a technology organization like ourselves, then you're in the E5 space, you're in the E3 space. If you're in the SMB space and nonprofits, Microsoft has always gone ahead and provided nonprofit licensing, which is, I think, 24% of the overall cost. So there's that as well. So yeah, I mean, I would say hold out hope for it, and if you can volunteer and get in the space, great. And then we'll figure out what the cost is a little later on, but it's not going to be too much.
Okay, so Jermaine, this is a really hard-hitting question. This is our last question. Thanks for your feedback, Jasmine. Our last question: has Jermaine asked ChatGPT to write a song for him to play on his guitar?
I have not yet. Duncan, here's what I'll say. If you give me 2 or 3 words of what the song should contain, I'm going to go right ahead and do that. And then maybe the next time we see you on a webinar, I'll be breaking that out into song. I don't know if anybody will stay after I sing though. So there's also that.
So the next question will be, can Jermaine actually play the guitar, or is it just a prop in the background?
That's a mystery. It will always be a mystery.
All right, let me ask that to ChatGPT. Duncan says my robot is my friend.
Duncan's having a great time today. We appreciate the participation.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great stuff. Thanks for keeping us from just talking to each other and making sure that we feel like we've got lots of engaged people that we're talking to. This has been a lot of fun. Please, AI readiness assessment, fill it out. If you're interested, reach out to us. Any manner, if you're one of our clients, reach out to your consultant. They'll take you through this stuff. It's a brave new world. We're changing the way that we all work. It's coming, whether we like it or not. So let's like it, and let's bring it in and get excited about it. Jermaine, thank you very much for joining.
Happy to be here. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody that joined our webinar today. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.